Hey nerds, welcome back for another video. It's Rachel here, your favourite science-obsessed fantasy author who is definitely putting her PhD to excellent use, I think. This is what I clearly had in mind all those years ago. So we're back for another video. This week we're looking at the role that science can play in helping you fill lots of niches for all sorts of fantasy creatures that you can create for your world. We did a bit about evolution of races last week, and this week we're going to be talking about fitting different creatures into different roles in society. So before we begin, I'm going to put in one quick caveat, which is you actually don't need to follow any of this advice. If your intention is to create a fantasy world where there are creatures that are very implausible for the setting that you've created, but you just want to say, hand wavy, magic made it happen, that's completely fine. The thing is though, not all readers are looking for that. There definitely are a lot of readers who are looking for the traditional fantasy stories where magic can explain anything, but there's a growing appetite in the fantasy audience for worlds that feel more comprehensive, that have rational explanations behind the mystical creatures that are created. And that's what this video is going to help you do. Now, when it comes to creating mystical creatures, you could literally go crazy. There are something like 8.7 million species in our world. I mean, if you're really committed to being a world builder, you know what you've got to do. No, please don't. That's insane. Please don't do that. I have some really useful tricks to help you not do that and yet still create a very comprehensive world that feels very realistic. So it's really up to you to decide. Do you want to go crazy and create 8.7 million species for your world? Or do you want to be a bit more realistic in your approach and maybe just have a couple of species here and there? A lot of readers actually don't mind the use of regular creatures in their fantasy worlds. This is why we see horses so commonly used. Most authors won't bother to change up a horse in a story because it is a very practical animal. And also by changing it up, you're adding an extra level that you need to explain in the story to the readers. So this is where there is a cost benefit when it comes to the number of new species that you introduce to a story, because it can weigh down your ability to explain the world to an audience without info dumping, which is not good. Don't do that. What this means is that you have to come up with a level that works for your story, where it is something cool and new that you want to introduce in your world for various reasons, versus it not being too much or too little if you don't do it. So it's really all about finding the balance. There are a couple of reasons why I love to make up new creatures for the worlds I create. First of all being, we're fantasy authors. May as well make up a whole shebang while you're at it. Why limit yourself to the creatures that our world has? Second of all, I really enjoy exploring the interesting scenarios created when you use creatures that we don't have in our world. Say, for example, there are no horses. Horses are gone. And yet, this is the world that maybe has giant eagles. Well, then you get into some quite interesting scenarios where you have potentially long distance travel is a lot more feasible. So what happens to nation states? Do borders not exist if we're able to travel over large land masses like mountains and Great Lakes that were otherwise used as barriers for one country or another? And what does this mean for staying in contact with relatives or transporting goods over long distance? Potentially you have multiple giant eagles. So how do you go about creating a world that has different fantasy creatures in it? I mean, unless you're going to go down the route of creating all 8.7 million, which I'm sure there's someone who's trying that right now. In order to create a fantasy world with enough new creatures in it to make it feel comprehensive, there is an easy cheat. And the way you do this is by only creating one or two new creatures that are needed to fill various niches in the world. Now, these niches are things like our using them for food or clothing or companionship. Maybe they are a natural feature in the world. So, for example, just nice songbirds. They have no practical purpose, but they exist. And by having a creature that is different that you've created in your world, then that will help add to the atmosphere and the overall feeling of the world being very rich. There's a couple of other areas that you can use to help create niche animals. That's, for example, communication. I'm thinking like carrier pigeons. Then you have animals that we use to help us transport ourselves and our goods, so horses, giant eagles. And of course, let us not forget, there are the predator animals. So they're not really useful for us. In fact, they could be quite dangerous to us, but they do exist. And by creating one for your world, you create a more comprehensive setting. And you get the added bonus of maybe some conflict when they try to kill your characters. Now, you don't need to create a fantasy creature for even each of those areas. You could just pick a couple and that will be enough. And when you do it, try to build it into the culture that you have. Say, for example, you have a desert people. Well, maybe they feast on lizards and they have a lizard egg farm process, and it's not just the eggs they use. Perhaps they use the lizard skin for clothing, or they grind down the eggshells as a source of calcium. All very cool ways that you could create a very utilitarian culture around the fact that they live in the desert with these lizards. And this builds on my own approach to world building, which is instead of just going, right, let's add wings to an elephant, instead you build out from one change that you make to the world. If you don't build outwards with your world in that way, then you create room for a lot more inconsistencies in the world that you've created. Going back to the giant eagle example from earlier, you saw all the implications that were coming out of having giant eagles in your world. That is a lot to contend with when building up a story. So it makes sense to do it in a more, this happened, therefore this would mean this for this part of the culture, and it would affect the people in this way, and the climate would mean that this happens there. So just by asking yourself these questions of what if, you create these small microcosms in your environments that are very different and that allow you to explore all these very interesting aspects of a world. And it's for this reason that it also makes it easier to just tweak a creature rather than changing it in its entirety when creating fantasy creatures of your own. However, that's not very ambitious, is it? So by all means, go crazy. But to help you do that, here are a few biological guidelines that will help you create a creature that is potentially feasible. You know, I mean, we're getting pretty good with science these days. Maybe they won't even be mythical for all that much longer. And of course, you can do it with flora as well as fauna, but more on that in a future video. So, on to the science. What do you need to consider to make sure that your creatures are practical? I mean, there's a reason why African elephants have such big ears. It's because they need to be able to cool down in such a hot climate. They have blood vessels that are able to be open and closed that allow more or less blood to travel through the ears and let the heat escape or not escape as is needed to control the temperature of the animal, because body temperature really is important, and it's one of the most important factors that you will need to consider when creating your new species. It's very relevant to do with the climate that species are living in. So if you have a creature living in a very mild climate, you don't need to worry so much. But when you get to the extremes, that's when you need to find ways of either making sure that they don't overheat or they don't get too cold. And to do this, you also need to consider, so are they getting their heat from the environment, or is their body temperature coming from within? If they're like a snake or a lizard, I mean, there's a reason those creatures don't live in the Arctic. They require the heat from their environment to keep them alive. And if you put them in the snow, they're gonna die. But it's not just about the physiological aspects of an animal that will determine whether it can survive in these extreme climates. You should also consider things like the behavior of the animal. So this is why there are some species that, you know, you would think, gosh, you're not very well adapted for surviving in such heat. But they actually burrow underground during the day to avoid the high temperatures, and that is what allows them to exist. So it might not necessarily need to be a biological reason that you give your animals for surviving in those extreme climates. A behavioral reason could work just as well. So what other factors other than temperature should you watch out for when creating your fantasy creatures? Altitude, that's a very big one. How high or low is the pressure where your creatures are going to be living? There are some species that have additional organs inside their bodies to help them deal with the high or low pressure. But unless your story is involving vivisection or autopsies of these creatures, I really don't think you need to know that, but it's something, it's cool. I thought I'd tell you it anyway. It's cool. And there's plenty of other things I could mention here too, like what the resources in the environment are for the species to survive on and what the light levels are like. The list goes on, and these are all factors that will play a role in the limitations of your creatures. But there is one other thing that I must mention before I go, which is that you've got to factor in your magic system in the world. Say, for example, you've created something that could have an implication on the creatures. It's a missed trick if you don't explore that. All right, well, that's it for this week's video. I really hope you enjoyed hearing about how to create fantasy creatures with confidence. Please subscribe and like the video if you haven't already. Tune in next week. I have more science fun to share with you. And please do leave a comment below if you have any fantasy creatures that you are working on that you'd like to share. I'd be very curious to hear what you've got on the go. And with that, I'll say happy nerding, happy writing. They're the same thing. Goodbye, nerds.